The goal this time is an introduction to the instructional leadership plan that we've been working through since spring of 2016. And in it, you're going to see the embedded instructional tools and the accountability that comes with it. And it's all collaborative in nature through Google Forms, which is completely free and user friendly to update as needed in comparison to something like Teachscape that would be $10,000 for annual kind of continuation, and you'd lose it if you don't continue. So really what we first developed was a schedule, and the schedule is based on strategies of what should be first, what should be sequential, and to complete the goals by the end of the first semester. The reality of teachers being encouraged by the end of the first semester, which would inform professional development, and should there be teachers that need improvement, they're being improved immediately and not allowing mediocrity to continue throughout the school year, because we know that the number one cause for students' loss, academic loss, is due to poor teacher performance in the classroom. So the last thing we want to do is allow that to continue through a whole school year, because it could take 2 to 3 school years to repair what could be damaged in that time. So this game plan is aimed towards the 2 goals of the school, which is spiritual development through discipleship and academic excellence. You can see here the game plan. First, you should have ongoing throughout the year lesson or unit plan feedback with teachers. Orientation week, you'd have goal setting with teachers. Immediately, first week or 2 weeks of school year, the administrative team should be in the common areas. Really, that is their classroom. If there is unsafe or unsupervised areas during the school day or during pickup or drop-off, these areas have to be immediately solved, because obviously we have student safety at stake, and it's also establishing the environment for teachers then to observe and model in their classrooms. Then immediately, by week 2, we need to be in teachers' classrooms, not observing instruction, but procedures. If a teacher has not put procedures in place for all activities throughout the day and to minimize time loss in transitions as students go from one activity to another activity, both starting the day, throughout the day, moving throughout the school, throughout the classroom, procedures have to be in place, intuitive, and students know exactly what to do. And so if this is out of place, this is the kind of thing that can undermine a teacher the rest of the year, and they can never get their students back. And so this has to happen immediately upon the initiation of the school year. Then you immediately go back into the classrooms, this time observing instruction according to what are our best practices in instruction. And there should be multiple observations. The walkthrough will be 10 minutes. And so if this is a goal, that this is very realistic to do within 10-week period, where we could get 4 to 5 observations. And the goal here is a 10-minute observation is just a snapshot. But if you get 4, 5, 6 of these observations, and obviously if you see a teacher who needs more snapshots, and you collect the data and you're realizing there's some areas that I've been in here 5, 6 times and I'm not seeing any data informing these certain benchmarks, that's a quick talking point, probably an improvement plan. And you're going to know that before the end of the first quarter, which is crucial for student performance if a teacher is failing in a certain area in instruction. Then also what's really important is assessment proves what are teachers teaching towards and are students getting it. And so if we see teachers teaching towards memorization and students just have to regurgitate that on test, then that's lower level thinking skills. And assessments are going to prove that, versus if the teachers are scaffolding learning, yeah, there's some memorization to get some basic information down, but we're going to quickly escalate that learning into critical thinking, such as analysis, synthesizing information, how to compare and contrast information, ultimately how to take various information and evaluate it and then transfer it to different scenarios outside the classroom that would be relevant in the students' lives. That's the area of critical thinking we need to see, and ultimately we'll see that on the assessments teachers are given. And so that's not even a classroom observation. That would be teachers turning different assessments in. So then by the end of the first 2 quarters, you've got a lot of different information. And I would include also having student feedback coming in at December. And so now you have at least 12 data points where you looked at, at least about 20 data points where you've looked at lesson or unit plans. You've followed up on teacher goals. You've been in the classroom once or twice seeing procedures, at least 3 instructional observations, 2 assessments, have received feedback. If you go into formal observations, you can, but the reality is so much of education isn't about, hey, a teacher has one high stakes observation that they either pass or fail. Just like we're moving away from high stakes tests, we want to see the nature of instruction and discipleship in the classroom on an ongoing basis. And that's where your formative cycle of several snapshots actually can be much more informative than just one big observation that a teacher could, fake their way through it versus let's just see them on a natural basis. So again, this would allow at least 20 data points by the end of the first semester, which you'd have a lot of those data points before the end should there be an improvement plan. And if a teacher hasn't shown proficiency in that improvement, hey, there needs to be changes made so students have a strong second semester. And then also just all those data points will inform your professional development for teachers that second semester. And it really frees up your administration team to work towards planning the next school year, second semester, where they're hiring, setting budgets, making other big plans. That's not the time to be observing teachers then because they either need to have proved they're proficient or not before second semester. And so that's the instructional leadership plan. I think it's crucial. It's got dates in there for accountability. Then what we have done is we've created several forms that correspond to each of those observations. I'll give you a couple examples here. There's a common area walkthrough where administrators should be several times a day for this first week of school. They're looking at the drop-off, hallways, cafeteria, playground, pickup areas, and we've created just through Google Forms just a real easy form that's accessed on a smartphone, an iPad, and they can fill it out in truly 3 minutes. But I'm first just showing you the bones to it. It is quickly editable, which is necessary as you continue to contextualize each year. But this is what you would pull up on your smartphone or iPad. The setting, what you're observing. You quickly go through it, and there'll be a place if you want to add additional notes here, and you see the administrator who did it. Past common areas. Next week you go into procedures, and since procedures are teacher specific, we set up an automated email so that the second the teacher is done being observed, their email, and each year you just come in here and change emails as your faculty changes. The second you finish observation, teachers have this information in their inbox. It's also through an email. The same through an instructional observation, which is the plan is just a 10-minute instructional walkthrough. And again, you can quickly get into the structure behind the form and change it, update it as needed. But there's an automated email setup and improving communication. So the second the teacher has finished observation, the administrator leaves, push submit, and boom, the teachers have it. You push submit, and they have it in their inbox. There's also a place just for admin notes that a teacher would not receive in the email, just to say, hey, I need to come back later this week, look for this specific thing. So then what we haven't finished setting up, but I can set up for all the teachers if the admin team wants it, is every one of these forms can then feed a teacher-specific form. So we can see, a teacher can go in and see how many times they've been observed, what are the salient points of each of the observations for procedures, for their goals, for professional self-reflection, and for the instructional dashboard. So if the teacher's ever like, oh, I didn't know, I haven't been hearing anything, they always have access. They can always go back and see all the anecdotal comments as well as the data points. So that's very helpful for communication with teachers. They can't say, hey, I didn't get the email. They have that information. But then there's also, with each of the forms, there's an administrator dashboard. And this should really inform administrator meetings. Head of school, say they're tyranny of the urgent, they haven't really had a chance to get ready for the administrator meeting, but what they can do is immediately come in here and see trends for whatever time period. They can come in here and set the date. They can set the date for this past week and see how many observations have happened, what administrators have done the observation, what grades have been observed, how often grades are being observed. They're being observed in the morning, in the afternoon. They can quickly see, hey, we have between 90% and 100% engagement in our classrooms this past week, but wow, we could even set up totals to say that's only 75%. Why are we not seeing 100% engagement in classrooms? Let's talk to that. It can be a talking point in the administrator meetings. Again, these are your major benchmarks of the instructional observation we set up, and it's according to best practice. We worked and contextualized some of the best forms out there and made one for Kingsway very specific. And so this is broken down as overall. If you want to just see what one principal is doing this past week, again, set your dates, check what the principal has done, and that's a talking point. Immediately, you got a data, you're not looking through emails, you're not wasting time disaggregating data or trying to calculate stuff. It's always updated by the last submission, and you have it here. You can disaggregate it towards administrators, teacher specific, you name it. So again, this is something that you'd have to pay $10,000 yearly to maintain, and you lose if you don't maintain it. And now this is something free for you guys. It's with Google Forms. Google Forms is now HIPAA approved with medical stuff. Like this is top security. It's top search features. It's the most updated software for what it wants to achieve, and the forms are spectacular. And so that's why we decided to use this. It's no continual cost to you guys, and it's robust, and you can continue to add more forms, create more dashboards, however you wish. And so this is something I'm willing to tweak as you need for the end of this school year, as you see if you want more things, but it's something that can really lead you towards instructional excellence and discipleship in your classrooms. As whatever you want to achieve, you've got to have a data to prove that you either are achieving it or not achieving it, and those are your talking points. And that's something also your head of school can take to board meetings to prove, like, for the end goals that he's being held accountable to, he's got data to speak to it. We're not talking about anecdotal thoughts, opinions. We've got data based on observations of what's going on in the classroom. So again, I'd love to talk and follow up as needed, but this gives you just a quick peek at instructional leadership, data, and accountability for Kingsway.